Welcome to week 3 of the Maze project. In this tutorial, we're going to continue on and sort of wrap up the project. So this week, we'll refine any simple primitives we've created. We'll add some lighting, and then we'll create some renders that are 2K, approximately 2048 by 1024. This is what you'll actually be turning instead of screen captures. So let's get started. The information here, the PDF is the same, and instructions on the screenshot and the Mac are the same. And then down here, I'll have additional tutorials like this one here that I'm recording right now. So let's jump to Maya, and I'll show you where we left off last week. So last week we left off around here, and this week I'm going to kind of go over a little bit more in terms of modeling and a little more of the model toolkit. So again, open up the model toolkit in the top right corner. That's this little box with looks like a little hammer. That's the modeling toolkit. And before I do that, though, I'm going to click on the channel box, which is the far right guy here. I'm going to turn off this layer and then turn this layer on. This is what we're essentially going to model today is some different kinds of walls. We'll kind of go through that process. And you'll notice each of them have this sort of cool bevel. So I'll kind of go over that. And they're kind of generically placed everywhere. So I'm going to show you how to do it both ways, how to do it the proper way, and then how to do a generic sort of bevel. All right, so I'm going to turn this off. We're going to start fresh here. So again, I'm going to click on the modeling toolkit to have that open by clicking the top right corner. We're going to go ahead and click on a cube, again in the poly modeling shelf. Again, under the create poly primitives, you have to make sure the interactive creation is turned off. Okay, that's real important. And then the polycube will kind of end up in the center there. What I'm going to do is essentially scale this. So I'm going to click on the scale tool here, and I'm just going to scale it up a little bit, and I'll make it a little bit bigger, something like that, and a little bit skinnier. So it's more like a wall. That looks pretty good. And then I'm going to switch to my move tool. I use the hotkey of W. And again, you can duplicate by hitting Control D, and that'll make a copy of something. I also just recently discovered, and this shows that I'm always learning something new about Maya. But I didn't notice, but with the move tool, if you just hold the shift key, you get a clone. I didn't even know that before. I may have accidentally done that, but I didn't know that in the previous Maya. I don't know if that's a new feature or it's been around forever, and I just never knew about it. It's kind of funny that I never knew that. But yeah, so I feel like I'm pretty good at modeling and learning something new myself every day. I'm going to turn on the wireframe on shaded so that we can see the outline. You can see when I click away, it's kind of hard to see the actual outline. So I'm going to click on this little icon here. It's this guy, and it's under the shading menu, and it's wireframe on shaded. So if you have this unchecked versus wireframe on shaded checked, then when you click off, you can still see the blue outline of the cubes. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create some divisions here, and if you remember to do that, use the multi-cut tool. So I'm going to click on that tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the Control key and click on it. Now, right now it's not working because I didn't select an object, so let me click out here, select one of these objects here, and I immediately went into component mode. If that happens, it's okay, but essentially what you have to have is an object selected, and then click on the multi-cut tool. And now I can hold the Control key and get a multi-cut. So I'm holding Control, and I'm going to make a cut like right here. And I think I'm going to hold in the middle here. So if I hold Control and Shift, it sort of snaps. So Control and Shift, and then click, left click with the mouse. On this one, I'm going to hold Control and Shift. Again, I have to select it first. So I'm going to click out here and select the object, and then click on the multi-cut again. In fact, let me try this. I haven't tried this before, but I think you can do it this way. Let me select two objects and then try the multi-cut tool. Yeah, it'll work that way. So I could have selected all three at the same time. So again, let's go back to component mode here. So I have component mode open. If I select all three here, like that, then click on the multi-cut tool, then it allows me to cut anywhere along here on all three, which is kind of nice, instead of having to go back and forth. So again, hold Control and Shift. I'm going to create a center line here, and then I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to add a bottom on this one. And then this one, I'm going to hold Control Shift this way and Control Shift this way. So I'll divide it 50-50 across both ways, basically. Maybe I'll do one on the end here just to give it some asymmetry. be kind of nice. Again, just holding control to create that. So again, click out and click on this little guy and escape out of these. It's just like right click, go to object mode here. So again, you could select all three objects and then click on the multi-cut, and then you can cut them all at the same time. So I'm going to actually select all three objects and go into face mode. Yeah, face mode, and then I'm going to choose the Extrude tool. And so with Extrude, I'm going to click on this face, and then I'm going to hold the Shift key, and I'm going to double click, and that will create the whole loop around the edge. And then I'm going to click on the Extrude. Now, if I grab the blue arrow, watch what happens here. See how it's distorting the surface? Because that's going on the local Z-axis here. So I'm going to type in a 0 here, reset that. Instead, you want to grab this thickness slider and just drag that out. And you can do it by just left-clicking on the word thickness until it starts to move, and then you can type in a value. So if you want to type in a very precise value, you can type in like 0.5, and it will be very precise for that. So now I'm going to click on this face and then hold Shift and double click on that one. And again, that creates the whole loop. And again, I'm going to click on Extrude. Again, adjust the value of the thickness. I'm going to keep it the same one, so I'll type in 0.5. And then on this one, I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to click on this face, and this face. And on this side, I will click on that face, and maybe that face. So I'm just selecting some random faces to create some really interesting asymmetry on this one. And then click Extrude. This time though, I could grab the thickness, I guess, and do the same thing. Yeah, I was going to grab the local Z, but I think that actually works. So something like that would be good. I kind of want to go a little bit thicker. So maybe around 2 on this one. Looks cool. Yeah, and that's an interesting shape. So now I'm going to go back to component mode, object mode by clicking on this little icon. And now you can see each one's an object. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate one of these just so you can see the difference of it. I'm going to hold Shift to create a copy here. So I'm going to select these three, and I'm going to choose the Bevel tool. And so I'm going to click on Bevel. And what happens here, remember is my last setting I had, which yours might not be exactly the same, but it set this at 0.5 for the fraction. And that's essentially what's happening here. If I drag this in or out, you can see it's adjusting the fraction on that one. It doesn't seem to be doing it on all three. And so I'm going to undo. That could be a bug or something that could be happening. So let me do one at a time. I think it's better to do one at a time anyways, just to see the end results here. So I'm going to select this one and click on Bevel. There we go. So on this one, I'm actually going to keep the fraction at 0.5. And you can see what happens here. What happens is the beveling gives it this quality. If I click off, and let me turn off that wireframe on shaded here. You can see here on this form here how sharp edge it is. And then on here, you get these cool bevels that capture the light. And that's the difference. So you'll really see it on this one when we add the bevel on this one. And I'm going to go a little bit tighter here. I'm going to drag down the fraction maybe to 0.2 and then click away. And you can see how this isn't real lighting setup yet, but you can see it's kind of capturing the sheen of that corner. This really is what makes it, takes it away from being totally 3D. Totally 3D objects, and poor 3D I should say, show no bevel at all. They basically show these straight edges, and so it's a key giveaway in the 3D world. So if you can create a bevel on there, either using the Bevel tool or adding edge loops around there and softening the object, you get a more naturalistic quality. Because in reality, not everything is super sharp on a 90-degree angle there. There is some variation there. So, but the thing you want to understand here is that I beveled the entire object. So I beveled like along here, which isn't really necessary. So if I was going to do this for a game, I would do this a little bit differently. I wouldn't necessarily bevel this line going down the middle, but everything else I might bevel, but maybe not on the bottom too. if you look at the bottom here, like why would I need a bevel on the bottom there? I could have that, especially if it's flat and a game engine on its own. So I just want to show you how you can selectively select for beveling. So what I could do here is select edges, which is just like click on the edge icon here, and then drag over all these edges here, or I can select different edges, the ones I want to actually create the bevel. So for example, I can click on this one, hold shift and double click and get the whole edge there. And this takes a little more time. Basically, I can just select this top edge loop, and then maybe maybe the two corners. Oh, let's give me an automatic save here. Maybe these two corners here, these two corners, and then I will also kind of do that whole loop around there. And I don't know, I need a bevel here, and the corner is good, but on these corners would be good to have a bevel. So I'll select those two and these two. Basically, where you have a hard edge, like a 90-degree angle, is where you'd want to add a bevel. Soft edges across there, you wouldn't necessarily need it. But watch now when I add the bevel tool, and we can change this fraction to, say, 0.2, and then I'll click on object mode to escape out. But you can see the difference here. It looks pretty much the same visually, but if I select both of them, you can clearly tell where we have extra geometry, essentially. And if you're trying to optimize geometry, especially for game engines, this is typically something you'd want to do. Now, if you're in a film production crew and you're doing this for films and all you're trying to do is get what's in camera and you're not worried about geometry, the amount of geometry, you could then just do a quick bevel for the whole thing. And for this instance, I'm not requiring you to individually select parts. You can go ahead and bevel the whole thing. Do you realize, though, it will eat up memory after a while? If we go to that display option, heads-up display, and go down to particle count, when I select these individual objects, or I'm sorry, wait, display, heads-up display, not particle count, but poly count is the one I want. So display, heads-up display, and go down to, whoops, here we go, poly count, there we go. So when I select an object here, this one has 112 verts. If I select this one, it's 66. So this one's like half the amount of verts as this one almost. And so it's a big difference if it comes down to your computing power, and that's this number right here. This is the whole scene here. If we select all three of these, it's 332. But if you select individual objects, you get the first number is 66. This one's 112. So big difference if you select different edges on their own. So interesting little idea here. And let's go ahead and add a bevel to this one real quick, and then we'll end it here. This one I might go a little bit bigger, but maybe not quite that big. Maybe 0.3. Nah, actually I could go 0.2. Or actually, let me go 0.3, and I'll show you another option here that's kind of cool. So right now there's no segments, but you can add additional segments here and get divisions on here. Where is it here? Yeah, see how, again, I have to turn off the, or turn on this guy again. But you can see here I've added more divisions, these segments. So I'll put it back to 1. This is default. If I type in a 3 or a 4 here, you can see it starts to subdivide, and smooths it out more, essentially. In fact, if I, let me undo that real quick. Just undoing the whole bevel process. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this just so you can see the differences between the two. Whoop. Let me go back to object mode, select the object, and I'll just hold shift, make a copy. Okay, so this one, we'll add the bevel, and we'll go ahead and tighten up a little bit. We'll go 0.3, and we'll go to like 3. And on this one, we'll add the bevel, and we'll leave out 0.3 with no divisions on there at all. And let me turn off the wireframe on chain for a second here. And you can kind of see it, like how hard that is, and this is a little bit smoother. In fact, if I hit the 3 key on this, which is, it's known as Smooth Mesh Preview, you can see what a difference that is. This one, you're getting a lot of wonky sort of structure, where this, it's super firm, it's kind of holding its own. And that's because those extra subdivisions are holding that form here. So that's by hitting the 3 key. If you ever do that accidentally, just hit 1 to go back to without this Smooth Mesh Preview. Alright, so yeah, you can easily make some cool little structures here. I just want to show you that, and then yeah, next tutorial we'll do one more tutorial. I kind of want to go more just in a little bit more into modeling, and then we'll do the lighting, and we'll do render for the last tutorial. Until next time, see you soon. Cheers.